Hey, everyone, and welcome to Building with Vitality, the podcast that's all about helping you live your best life.
And we're your hosts, Nikki and Paige. We're going to give you all the tools to help build a life that's full of vitality. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Building with Vitality. We are here today with a very special guest, Sarah Jenkins. She is a Utah TV host, former news anchor, and a lifelong proponent of being active and always learning. She currently hosts Fresh Living on KUTV News in Salt Lake City, but has spent the past decade working in hard news entertainment, red carpet coverage, and now the lifestyle space.
Holy cow.
That is a lot. All the things.
Yes, kind of a mouthful.
She also is a mother. And
of two twins.
Yes. And she's a passionate writer, interviewer, traveler. She credits yoga to changing her life. So we're going to talk a lot today about fitness as a lifestyle, being a mom, having a career. I know you struggled with a little bit for an eating disorder. So we're going to touch on that. So basically today we are going to dive into all the things. We were actually talking a little bit before we started this podcast about how there are so many different facets to us. Mm-hmm. And so I think overall today, just focusing on how health and fitness and mindset and all of those things have helped you in every aspect of your life.
And kind of all work together too. Like you need one.
Absolutely. Everything's interconnected.
Yes.
So true.
Yes.
So thank you guys for having me. I'm so flattered. I love sitting here and
we're flattered that you said yes to us. So.
I'm excited to sit down and talk about things I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I feel like, we were chatting a couple minutes ago and it sounds like we have a lot in common interests. And one of the common threads of my life has been that health and wellness. I think it's so important. So thanks again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, just to kick this off, talk us through a little bit of that journey. So starting with your career, you have had a 10-year career being on TV. Like walk us through that a little bit. How did that start?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I was always surrounded by politics. My dad was a news producer for National Public Radio. So I always was kind of around that journalism. I had that bug. And I was absolutely terrible at math. I always joke with my girlfriends that have been kind of in journalism or communications. A lot of us aren't super good at math. And understatement. Might be generalizing, but I was that stereotype. And so I think I always knew I wanted to do something in the writing, journalism, entertainment space. I went to school in Arizona, and ever since then, I've pretty much been out west. So I studied journalism in school. I went to ASU.
Awesome.
And then for about 5 or 6 years after I graduated, I totally stepped away from working in the industry I currently do. I was doing cardiology equipment sales, which medical equipment sales, it was super random, but I kind of fell into it. And to be honest, I made great money, but it just wasn't my passion. And I think that so many different experiences in life that we do, like even if something isn't the perfect fit, I think you can take positives from them.
Yeah, totally.
So while working in that capacity and meeting these cardiologists and learning all about like heart health, that was, speaking of health, like something that really resonated with me. And I'd always been active and cared about, trying to be healthy, some years more than others. But that was something that definitely kind of made me have more of an awareness of, you can be active or do yoga or running, which I'd always done, and weights, but like really, I think that's when I started caring more about my diet, was early to mid-20s.
Okay. Well, and because especially the cardiology, you probably recognize that it's more also about your inner health too.
Yes.
It's like when we're younger, it's like, oh, I want to look a certain way or like do these things. And then as you get older, you're like, wow, like my joints, my heart, like all of these inner workings of my body, like that is really dependent on how I'm taking care of it.
Absolutely, spot on. And as you touched on, I did end up having like a pretty serious eating disorder for a long time. But even before really I was in the throes of that, I think a lot of us, like you said, in our early 20s or college, like we care about the outside, but we maybe aren't necessarily thinking about like the wellness and health of like what we're ingesting as far as diet component. And so, that was something that really kind of put it on my radar. And that was a really great experience. So fast forward to me working in journalism. It's a crazy lifestyle and there's not always a lot of balance. So that is something I've been working on.
Because I'm actually curious, way back in the day, I actually remember telling my mom, I'm like, I am going to be a journalist. I want to be on TV. I want my own talk show. Like, da, da, da.
Yeah.
And then you get into
your own podcast.
Yeah. You manifested that. That's not that far.
I quickly learned that those hours are not for me. I had a friend that was waking up at like 2 a.m. to go do random things.
Yes.
So
it's crazy. I mean, and I think like the friends of mine that anchor at the TV station I currently work for, you know, like you said, they wake up at 2 a.m. and people, you get used to it. I think, I don't know.
You have to love it.
You do.
Yes. You have to love it.
And luckily I did do that when my first TV job was outside of Las Vegas in Laughlin, Nevada. Again, I assume a lot of people don't know where that is, but got my foot in the door. Now I'm fortunate enough that my day, I have to be at the station at like 8. I record our lifestyle show. And so we start recording at 10 to like 11:30.
Yeah.
So it's not as crazy of a schedule.
And is that every single day that you guys record?
We record Monday through Friday. It airs on a couple different local affiliates, but at 1 p.m.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's there's parallels between when I worked in hard news, and then there's things that are completely different that I love, because I think working lifestyle, it's a lot more upbeat and lighthearted, and it's just
it's a little harsh and probably takes a lot less energy from you to go raise those babies.
Absolutely, yeah. So I have 2.5-year-old twins, like you guys said, and I just think it's easier to find that balance. It's ever elusive, but
it's not a thing. Balance is not a thing.
Yes.
There are seasons, and
that's so well put. And that's something that's kind of a mantra for me that I remind myself constantly. I feel like I say that to a lot of friends when I have these conversations come up, and I'll say, look, I feel like I'm not as fit as I want to be currently, or my house isn't as organized as it used to be. And it's just a reminder. I try to remind myself this is a season where things won't be. I have young little kids, and the perfectionist in me I love interior design. I'm like, I want my house to look like this. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm also trying to be present and realize they're only going to be this age once. And so,
that is so beautiful. Like,
I love
like
that.
zooming in on that. I think a lot of people forget that you do only have this day one time. Right. And so I'm even trying to be more present in all of my things that I'm doing. And that's where you just have to be like, let's let it go. Like you literally just have to let some of this stuff go and say, okay, this isn't for me right now, but at a later date, I'm going to attract it in. And
let it go is a theme in my house right now, because we play Frozen 5 times a day. So one of my daughters is singing it constantly. But it's like, it's great advice.
You're like, that is what I needed
You
today.
are preaching. Yes.
That is amazing.
It's a good song.
So how do you, I know there's no such thing as balance per se, but how do you keep yourself sane? And what are those things you do every day, whether that's health, fitness, getting ready to just be amped to get on TV every day? Like, how do you actually self-care and take care of yourself so that you can provide for everybody?
Absolutely. I think that's so important. First and foremost, you have to take time, and that can look different for everyone. For me personally, I have been practicing yoga a long time. So even if I don't have time, or we don't have a sitter that day to like physically go to my studio, I'll take like 20 minutes before bed to really just try and meditate and do like a simple vinyasa or light a candle. And I've gotten really into like tea drinking lately. And
Me too.
Yeah. I love it. It's like so cozy and like this time of year. It's just, I like, what is it? Aveda has a loose leaf tea that I tried at one of their salons. And you can find it on Amazon. You have to get the loose leaf, but I'm obsessed. And just little things like that, that like finding even 5 or 10 minutes, I think make a big difference. Yeah. And then if I have more time, I'm lucky that I have a supportive partner, and my husband is wonderful. He works from home, and a lot of the time he ends up, helping me with it. I mean, he's a dad. I hate when people say like, oh, he's babysitting them. It's like, no, it should be even.
Yes,
but
agreed.
he is great, and we both support each other. And he knows, because we've been together a long time, for my mental health and me to perform my best, he'll be like, okay, you go to the gym. I know that you need to like let out some stress right now, or I know that you're going to be in a better mood this whole weekend if Friday night at 5 p.m. you go to that yoga class. Yeah. And so I think like just knowing yourself and recognizing things that really boost your mood. Boost your mood. I can't talk.
We know what you meant.
It makes a big difference.
Yes.
So I just...
Well, because we have to prioritize ourselves so that we can be the person we want to be for all of these other people. Mm-hmm. Like if we didn't take care of ourselves, then we would be moody. We were actually just at lunch with a friend right before this, and we were talking about that. The food that we eat actually impacts our mood. So if you see yourself being kind of moody and quick to just snap. I mean, take a look at what you're doing and putting in your body.
Thing I ask, like close friends, is when was the last time you ate? Because literally your blood sugar plays a big role in that. And so no. And I love what you said too about how taking care of yourself, that looks different for everyone.
Yes.
Because I used to have like this really, really intense morning routine. And the reality of it is someone with kids or someone that's in a certain season of their life, like they couldn't do that. And I can't even do that right now either. And so it is interesting how self-care, like throughout your life, it does look a little bit different. And so I love your mindset about it of, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, just doing something small. I love the phrase, something is better than nothing.
100%.
Yeah, because those of us, especially that have struggled with perfectionism, overachieving, like black and white thinking, it's like, oh no, I need to have that hour and a half long workout. I need to have this. And it's like, no, you just need at least like 5, 10, 15 minutes of something for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I heard something recently. I don't know if it was a podcast or a book, but I think a lot of times perfectionism can go hand in hand with anxiety. And a lot of us who are high achievers in the type A and wanting to get things done, it can manifest itself as anxiety. And I think they were saying basically that anxiety and that perfection tendencies, you can really consider that your superpower if you just know how to channel it in the right way. So you can recognize, I'm feeling really high strung right now, or I'm stressed out, or why do I have this anxiety? And just channel it in a healthy way and use that energy if you're feeling especially motivated or inspired, but then also really just make sure to stop and listen to yourself and be like, okay, I'm in a really productive zone right now, but I also need to be introspective and like not burn myself out. Or I don't even know if that makes sense, but I think it's just really like, it's about being introspective and channeling when you're motivated. And then sometimes maybe if you're like tired or you've been going too strong, to listen and take kind of inventory internally.
No, I love that. We always joke like it literally all comes back to being able to listen to ourselves. And
no, it really does. And the self-awareness that has to come from that is also like undeniable. And so people that are actually like listeners, if you're trying to figure out how do you become more introspective, it's literally just what you just said, taking inventory and becoming self-aware of what you're doing every day and actively like doing a check-in. I think it was maybe Brendon Burchard that has like a check-in, like whether every couple hours or something, where he's like, okay, what's my intention? And it's just like a really good reflection point. So he can just remember, okay, I'm listening to myself, and then set the next intention, which I love.
And that word intention is huge though, because even Sarah, what you just mentioned of channeling that like high energy or like anxiety toward something and like achieving something or doing something or utilizing that energy with the intention of doing it out of love for yourself and doing something in a positive light versus with the intention of being perfect at it or punish yourself. A lot of times people talk that way about working out of like, oh, I have to work out. I have to work off. I'm sure you hate, like, I hate when people say that. Like, oh, I have to go work off this like muffin I just ate. I'm like, no.
Right. It like triggers you. And maybe it triggers me because I've been that person. So I understand it. Like I get it. But then I think I'm not saying I'm on the other side completely. I think people who've had an eating disorder, it's a lifelong thing that you're really trying to check in and like
for sure. That's why all this stuff is so important to you because you want to keep yourself in check. Yeah, absolutely.
And then when you hear people who are voicing some of these things that maybe like you used to voice more openly or have that mindset, it's really just a reminder like, no, let's break these patterns. And no one's ever going to feel great punishing themselves. That's not what working out or yoga or eating healthy is about. You know, it's really feeling good from within. So.
No, exactly.
Do you primarily do yoga or do you mix it up and do some strength training, or is yoga just what you're loving right now?
Well, I haven't been doing it as much as I'd like to lately. Again, it's just with the kids, but
that's a lot. Like
and my job, but like everyone's busy, right? So I do yoga a lot and I run. Those have been kind of my first loves since high school. I played field hockey and soccer. I was always active growing up.
What in the world?
East Coast, it's a big deal back there, but I'm not saying I was rough, but it was fun. I I don't know. I've lived a lot of different cities, and I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I'm like, every time I move, I talk about joining like an adult league for like soccer. I just think that'd be a fun way to meet people.
They have tons here, by the way.
Do they in Utah?
A ton, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's just like a fun way.
We're gonna take a dance class, an adult dance class.
I
Come
love
do
it.
that with us.
Yes.
I would do it, except I probably would embarrass you guys because I am not a dancer.
I am
Two left
also
feet.
not a dancer. However, Paige did competitive dance growing up.
I did.
Amazing.
So I've kind of had to frame my mind to like be ready of like, I'm going to look like the like weirdo.
We'll
in
be the
Paige's-
backup dancers,
we
and
will
we'll just
be
like
the
follow
backup dancers.
Paige.
It is important. Like, just a side tangent here. I've been talking to a lot of people, like especially women in the career field, and we have such a hard time finding hobbies outside of our career. And so what I'm trying to do is those small things. So right now I've recently got into somatic exercises. So every day I'll do somatic exercising, which is basically just nervous system regulation for exercising. Nikki loves nervous system talk.
Love
Yeah,
it.
So we're going to talk a lot about that later.
A girlfriend of mine does breath work in Phoenix. I should hook you guys up with her. She's amazing.
I've been really into breath work. I mean, the thing is, a lot of times, the reason why people get so into things, a lot of times, is because they desperately needed it. Yeah. So, like, I got really into studying the nervous system because I found myself like literally paralyzed from anxiety, and I didn't even know that was possible. And so I've been studying it a lot. And then I was like, no, everything comes back to your nervous system.
And then what happens when your phone
hears
hears someone say that, your phone feeds you that. So my TikTok was blown up with somatic exercises.
Like, what the heck?
And I'm like, I've never heard her talk about somatic exercises before, but somehow my phone knows that they're connected.
You guys know you spend a lot of time together when your phone starts doing when she's talking.
Literally.
That's amazing.
Literally. So it is really cool, and it's a positive thing to just do, whether it's having a dance class or doing something outside of your career, because we do need those moments to get back into our playful side and our creative side. And so I'm trying really hard. That is like a big thing for me this next little chapter.
I would take a dance class with you. I may embarrass you, but I totally would do it. I'm down.
No, there is no embarrassment here.
We are doing it. We will send you the details.
We did a really cool class with one of our friends who does a lot of the masculine feminine stuff, and she was going through the different archetypes of the feminine, and she put on different music, and then we danced to the different music. It was actually really cool.
Yeah, fascinating.
There's a lot of power. I mean, you understand the power of just movement in general. And I think like for me, I mean, I personally, when I was younger, I was that kid that would just like blast music and just like dance in my room. My family would come in and they'd be like, Nikki, you are weird. And I'm like, I know, I'm embracing it.
I did it too. No judgment.
Yeah, as we get older, right? It's like, I feel like I always had to be composed, and I was, and I'm sure like you deal with the same thing of being on TV and on the news, and like you have to like put up this professional front, but just like so many of us as we grow up, we lose that like playful side. And so that's like a big thing for us that we've talked a lot about is, okay, what are those like little micro moments that we can remember to get into that part of ourselves? Like just have fun.
Yeah. I've heard people say before that whatever you did as a kid and you just spent hours and hours dancing in your room or drawing or, you know, looking at the stars, that's something that will bring you joy as an adult. And I think we get so busy that we don't think about it sometimes, but that's truly like, you know, one of your base passions, if something that you could spend time and just, it ceases to exist when you're little.
I wish mine was art. That would make it a lot easier for me.
Right? I'm like, it's been a minute.
But I wasn't very good at it. But I'm sure also having little daughters probably helps you see that, because you're around them all the time, and you're able to try and probably experience the world through their eyes. So I'm curious, like how having kids has changed you, like how now your perspective and with life and health and all of that.
Literally, I mean, everyone says this, but it's true. You're completely changed as a person. I mean, your whole life, the lens with which you view the world is completely changed, and all for the better. In my 20s, I was one of those people that didn't know if I ever wanted to have kids. I love kids. I have lots of kids in my family. I just was like, I don't know if it's in the cards for me. I traveled all over the world. I was focused on career. And then one day in my early 30s, I kind of was like, no, this is really important to me. And you view the world through their eyes. Everything is new to them. I mean, truly. And when you just look at them and they're just like this pure blank slate, and everything, they have this sense of wonder. Like it really affects how, I mean, I almost get emotional talking about it because you see their eyes, like the world is just so magical to them. And then them being your own kids, you just love them so much. And I'm biased, but I'm like, you guys are perfect. You're so smart, you know? And it's
perfect.
like,
they're very cute.
Thank you. But it's very magical. And it's so hard. Being a parent is so hard. I think, you want to protect them forever, and you want them to never have any bad experiences, and any trauma that we have lived through. I think that's in the back of your mind too, how to keep them like hidden from that or protected from that. It's scary, but it's also amazing and an opportunity for such growth, I think.
Yeah. When do you think we lose the magic? Because I've actually heard that a lot lately, is we have lost the ability to be playful because we lost the magic. When you're young, you think everything is so magical and amazing and beautiful. And then when you grow up, it's like people tear you down, or they tell you that life is hard, so you expect it. Like when do you feel like that happens, and how do you? I almost think we just tell our kids, keep telling them, no, life is magical, right? Like,
I love that question, and I don't know the answer to that. I think it's tough because you're so right. And I know people talk about social media a lot. I feel like every generation had parents that were worried about their kids and how the world was changing. So there's always, since the dawn of time, been things that you're trying to protect them from. But in this day and age, like keeping them entertained and inspired, I mean, I think giving them a lot of experiences is really important to me.
Yes.
My husband and I travel with them everywhere, and a lot of people have been like, how do you do it? And we joke we have short-term amnesia because sometimes it's really hard. And I'm like, why did we do this? But I didn't really travel.
We're never doing this again.
No,
and then,
literally
like,
every
2 days later, we're doing it again.
That's us. Yes. You probably overhear us saying that. But I do think my mom commented, recently, she was like, you guys take them so many different places. And she's like, I think that's really good because it inspires wonder in, children's world, and just new environments and new things, and not just sitting in front of the TV. And I'm not saying we're not a TV free household. They definitely, do have time doing that, but it's important to try and expose them to a lot of different things.
Yeah.
We take them out to eat with us. I mean, we just really bring them with us. They're a part of our lives. So
that's amazing. Well, and I think a big thing actually is focusing on connection versus disconnection. Because even what you mentioned, is TV bad? No. But do a lot of kids and people in general watch a ton of TV?
So much.
And it's the intention behind it. If you're watching, like I remember listening to a guy who was saying, like for a date night, like sometimes couples will just get into this rut where it will just be like, okay, for a date night, we're going to go watch a movie. And if that is a way to disconnect from each other and from life, then that's one thing. But if it's a way to connect with each other, where you get to watch this movie together, you're laughing together, you're experiencing it together. Yeah. But if you're both just sitting there on your phones, just kind of like disconnecting from everything and each other, it's just way different. And so I was thinking a lot about that concept of how a lot of people try to they use these things to disconnect. Social media, TV, video games, all of these things. And all those things aren't bad. They actually do serve a purpose and serve good. But again, it comes back to that word and the intention behind it.
Yeah.
And so I love that, like, it seems like you guys are doing an amazing job of focusing and helping your daughters get that connection and those experiences and connect with you, but also life and themselves. And kind of like,
I mean, it's just hard in general, but it's like, and I'm a first time mom, so it's like I get a crash course with the twins. I'm like,
that is my dream. Yes. One pregnancy and twins.
But I love that you admit it though too, of like, it's hard. Like, I'm not a perfect mom. I'm here like trying, and I love that about you. Like, it's very authentic and refreshing to hear like you're doing your best, but like that isn't perfect. And that is impractical for anyone.
Like, we live in Utah, so it's the hub of mommy influencers, right? And so
true,
I think so many people are scrolling. And before going on this own journey, I worked at an influencer technology software. So we worked with a lot of mommy bloggers. And what's so fascinating is they're lives are so perfect externally. You go to their feed, it's amazing. They seem so happy. And we were actually just talking about one the other day. And then you get on the phone with them for a collaboration with a brand, and they're the most unhappy person you've ever met in your life.
Really? Yeah.
And it's really sad. And I'm not generalizing, but it is really interesting because it gave me even perspective. I used to look at people and say, holy cow, their house is amazing. Their family's amazing.
And it's hard not to feel bad about yourself when you're seeing that.
They got the best body ever. Like, what is this? And then you start to realize, oh, that is just a facade. And it gives you a lot of empathy for yourself, but then also for others as well. So,
and for them, actually, because what a prison to feel like you have to have this facade of perfection all the time.
Right.
All of us want to present our best selves. All of us, you know, professionally and personally, you know, we want to feel put together and healthy and, you know, look nice and be seen as competent and intelligent and all of the things. But we also all have internal struggles. And I think I'm glad that I feel like we're seeing a shift more in people being real and authentic, you know, because when you talk about connection, that's number one, is being able to relate. I think when we fall into that trap of trying to be too perfect all the time, that's the opposite of opening up authenticity and connection and making new friends. You know, nothing's less inviting to someone than someone just seeming so closed off.
Right.
And it's a catch-22 because we're sold this bill of goods that like we need to on social media have these perfect lives, but literally everyone is sitting there being like, well, my house gets messy or, you know, I'm late or I slept in, don't feel great today. You know, we all have days where we're feeling 100 and days where we feel a lot worse. So,
and I think it's especially harder for us women that are like, I think us three are very much perfectionists in other, like, especially in our career.
Right.
So having to remind ourselves, hey, like, we don't need to put on this facade. Like we should actually show up super real. That's one of my goals on social this next little bit too, is just like, how do I show more of my real life and just like the actual struggles of trying to start my own brand and all of the crazy things that I'm doing every day.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I want people to know the process and what I'm actually going through on a daily basis. And it's not perfect. I just fired my manufacturer.
Yeah. No, that's real life.
It's hard.
It's like you're scrambling, right? But you'll make it work. And
and I feel like when we show up authentically, that gives other people permission to show up authentically too.
Yes.
And it is really beautiful how you just connect with people on such a deeper level when you're like, hey, this is who I am. And then you realize that people are actually liking you for you. I think if we don't show up authentically and we do put on this facade, then I think I've seen, like, I've done this where I'm like, oh, that person maybe doesn't even like me for me. And I'm like, well, okay, what the hell? I wasn't even like showing up as my authentic self.
Right.
So I can't even like fault them for not liking me for me, because I wasn't even showing them the real me.
That's such a good point. And you're so right. I think sometimes we just can get scared or in our heads about showing like the parts of us that we think might not be perfect. And then it's like, you're never going to have those true connections,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
So you're shorting yourself the opportunity to, you know, benefit your own life.
Yeah.
And in the health and wellness space, like in the beginning, when you guys said that I'd said, you know, yoga really colored the whole way in which I live my life. It's so true. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I learned from practicing for like 13 or 14 years now is just showing up and like being intentional about what you're doing and internalizing things. And there's so many lessons to be learned from yoga.
Oh my gosh,
and so
I know.
I love
What's
it.
so funny about yoga is I had this weird mindset shift where in my mind, yoga for me was always very slow. I didn't have the patience for it.
I've heard people say that.
Yeah, because I was always like, go, go, go. I was telling Paige this the other day of how I prided myself on, people would be like, Nikki, you're like not even human. You get so much done in a day. And I would optimize everything, like everything. And I feel like I've changed a lot. And part of that has been getting into yoga, getting into breath work,
slowing down a little bit,
forcing myself to slow down. And instead of being like, oh, I'm not achieving, I'm not doing, I'm not, because I had that like major anxiety of like, oh, I have to always, I wouldn't even let myself sit down and watch TV because I was so like, no, I'm not accomplishing anything.
Right.
And yoga for me has been a game changer, and breath work and just some of that stuff, meditation, because it forced me to sit and be still. And it also helped a ton with my cortisol levels because so many people are in like this fight or flight mode all the time.
Absolutely.
And I didn't even realize that. But it's fascinating because I had this epiphany one day of, I'm like, okay, I've studied the science of cortisol and like how detrimental that is to every aspect of your body. Oh my gosh, that's why yoga is so powerful, because it helps relieve your stress and like it helps you be present. And in my mind, I was just like, oh, it's not a workout. It's not, you know, but
I totally get that.
Anyway,
and I have girlfriends that are still like that, where I'll ask them to come to a class with me and they'll be like, no, like we can do whatever, like kickboxing or, you know, dance class, but they're like, it's too slow. It's boring. I'll meet you for coffee after. I'm like, I don't, to each their own. But if you can do it, I'm a huge proponent of it.
Because you're also meditating basically during it as well, which is so good to clear the mind.
Yes.
So it's a mind and body connection all in one.
So for the listeners, if you are like the old me,
yoga ambassadors. What's going on?
But no, I think it's at least worth people looking into.
Yeah. And if it's not for you, there's other things like you were saying earlier, like I think just going back to finding the joy and activities that can be healthy for you and outside of work, and not grabbing a glass of wine at cocktail hour. I'm someone that I do enjoy wine from time to time. I know it's probably great to never have it, but for me, that's part of my balance. But I think it's important to find things that are really healthy and just finding that balance. And so, like if you want to do aerial silks or like pole fitness or any of those classes.
I get into all of those things. Yes. Also pole fitness.
What is a winter sport we can do? I was actually just talking to someone about this. I'm like, well, we did do a lot of, that's literally what they said.
Cross country
and I was like, count me out of snowshoeing. That is really hard.
What, the skiing?
Snowshoeing.
Oh, that's aggressive.
I'm going to opt out of that one.
Yeah, I have them. I did it a few times last year.
We are opting out.
Thank you. I love, like, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. It was really hard to put the snowshoes on though. Like it kind of got annoying. So actually my favorite thing to do is hike just with the spikes.
Oh, cool.
Because you can do, especially in Utah, you can do like 90% of the basic hikes just with the spikes on the bottom
fascinating.
of your shoe. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. What do you ski?
Not well. So I joke. So I've been in Utah a couple years, and I always tell people, I'm like, my goal is to be a passable skier. I don't think I'll ever be on the Black Diamonds, like cruising down. But
it's okay, me either.
Growing up on the East Coast, like what we call mountains, they're not the same. Like,
So,
but I love the idea of it. Like,
but I like the vibe. But like a hot yoga class in the winter is actually the perfect. I feel like the perfect.
For sure. Yeah. So just staying active, and the other thing I love about classes or any of those is like it's a fun way to spend time with friends too. You know, and you feel like you're able to connect and catch up, but you're also doing something that's good for your heart. And like since moving here, like I said a couple years ago, I've been so career focused that I think I'm thankful that in my mid 30s, I have different tools than I had in my early 20s.
What are those tools? Let's give the audience a couple tools.
So, like I said, meditation, journaling.
Yep.
And what do you do for meditation? Do you follow a specific, like, do you use the Calm app, or do you just do your own meditations where you just sit and kind of like go through a process?
I still am not a master meditator. I think the people who are, I'm just like in awe.
But I don't even think that's a thing though. I think like, yes, there are people that technically have done it for longer or are better at certain things, but like I think you're your own master. And
so I was actually going through yoga teacher training. I'm this close to having my YTT 200 when I was pregnant, and it was during COVID, and I actually got induced like a month early, and so I was this close to having it. I'm gonna go back and get it.
You should.
But at the very end of the training, when I was so pregnant and I couldn't move, I had an app. And I'll have to find it. I'll give it to you guys. But they also had a lot of meditation. And that's when I really got into it. When it's like, okay, I can't move my body certain ways, but I can do this for myself.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's now been 2.5 years. At least a couple times a week, I will either do the app or just like I said, I'll sit on my yoga mat, I'll light a candle, and I'll just try to like just be calm and zen. And
that's honestly what meditation is.
It's true.
Like you don't always have to totally completely calm your mind. You are calming your body. And that in turn will calm your mind.
And I think actually that's what a lot of people try to get to, is just doing their own meditation. But there are so many tools out there, because a lot of times people can't quiet their mind or calm themselves. Like it's helpful to have someone kind of walk through these steps with them. One that I really like is called Insight Timer. I don't know if you've used that before, but just for anyone looking for like a really basic one, the Calm app is great. But there's so many. Even if you literally just go on YouTube and do like meditation, Joe Dispenza has some great ones. So I feel like a lot of at least the health people that I follow now are talking more and more about meditation, yoga, like all of those like stress relievers. And it's also awesome.
So meditation, journaling, what
Yes.
else? What are your other tools?
Eating well. And that doesn't mean eating perfect, but really just trying to be mindful of putting food in my body that is plant-based, has, protein. I try to incorporate in every meal. Not eating too much sugar or empty calories, and really being mindful of where I've lived both extremes, where I've just, when I was bulimic for so long, you have these purges and you just are like not even thinking about what you're eating, but it's trying to fill this hole.
Yeah.
And I could talk about that for, a super long time, but it kind of getting over that hump. And now that I haven't been bulimic for a long time, but I still occasionally will have these triggers, stress usually. I think the gift of that is, I don't even know how to say like the tools that I have. It's just kind of habits that I've set up that if I recognize that I'm stressed or I feel like I could potentially be spiraling, I'll be like, okay, I need to rest and I need to eat a salad, and not because it's X amount of calories, but because I'll actually feel better.
Yeah.
I know within a couple hours, like you literally can feel the difference when you're fueling your body with whole foods. And one of the things that was hard in the height of when I was going through this eating disorder is I was fortunate enough to grow up with like really health conscious parents. But sometimes I would feel guilt about that because I'm like, whereas I've had friends that were like, I lived off fast food. I'm like, I had this foundation for knowing what I should be putting in my body, but I wasn't doing it. And I think that's such a testament to people who have had this disordered eating. You could be the most knowledgeable person in the world. You could have your PhD in nutrition, but it isn't about that. It's about trauma and stress and triggers. It's not about the food. And
it's about the emotions, the control.
Yes, absolutely. And so having gone through the hell of that, I think I look at that on the flip side as a benefit now because I am so much more aware of how I'm feeling and trying to like fuel myself. So,
listening to your body.
Yeah,
And I was
absolutely.
just going to say too, a little while back, you did mention about your daughters and like protecting them from trauma.
Yeah.
And the trauma that you've gone through. But I think it's such a beautiful thing because you're so much more equipped now to be able to help them and know what to say and probably know how to parent a little bit better because you have had these experiences and you can speak to them. Like you can, obviously you can't protect them and shield them from everything, but you can help be able to educate them and nurture them and sit with them and teach them how to deal with their emotions.
Yeah. And our parents, I think, are from every generation's different and we're always evolving and learning new things. And I'm super close to my mom. I'm one of 3 girls. So I've always got girls. I was glad I had little girls. I love little boys, but I tend to, I have a lot of girlfriends. And so, but yeah, I also then having these close friends, I've seen so many of us have had similar struggles. And so, thinking about how to try to avoid some of these traumas. And I had a parent growing up. I love my mom. We're close, but she definitely, from as long as I can remember, would always make comments about people's appearance and their weight. And kind of an attitude, maybe it wasn't so overtly spoken, but it was definitely a judgment, like she doesn't take care of herself. And so I don't think she even knew some of the things she was saying, but little children are so perceptive and you pick up on it. And then you attach value to that,
Yep. So, when parents put their opinions on their children, they don't realize the patterns that they're creating in the later of life.
Yes.
So true.
That's what's hard.
I would imagine doing professional dance. I've had friends that do that, and I just know they had a lot of pressure, and whether it was from parents or just pressure they put on themselves. So hearing that about you, I could imagine you probably had experiences similar to that.
Oh,
so,
totally. Totally. I think we've all had to come such a long way of just like accepting ourselves and being really happy with who we are and just not caring what anyone else thinks. The best, I would say, like, I became my happiest the moment that I was just like, I actually love myself and I do not care what anyone else thinks.
Yeah.
Like, anyone. That's family, friends, like anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show up. Like one day I might look like a homeless person and the next I might be super dolled up. Like you don't know what you're going to get, but like that is just like what is being real to me.
Yeah. And when you give yourself permission to do that, to just show up authentically, it is really freeing.
Mm-hmm.
Like just,
I almost didn't get ready today, but I slicked my hair back into a bun.
You guys both look so cute.
But I was like, Sarah's
clothes,
the cutest
so.
ever. She's literally on TV. I'm going to put makeup on today.
Yeah.
You guys are so gorgeous and you look great. But it's like, no, it's, isn't that funny how we're all just so like the things we think. And I remember this is a weird story, but it's such a testament to like what we're talking about. Is years ago, a friend of mine had a bachelorette party, and it was a group of most of the girls I didn't know. They were from a different state. And my flight came in late, and everyone was like meeting at the pool. It was in Vegas. And I remember I missed like a huge chunk of the afternoon because I hadn't had time to get like a manicure, or I hadn't had time to have my hair blown out. So I spent hours getting all ready. And looking back, I was just thinking about that recently, and I don't know how it came up, but it's so what you're talking about. Like, I felt like if I didn't show up looking a certain way, or maybe what I thought these people expected me to be, that we wouldn't hit it off or be friends. And then it's like, that's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, when you say it out loud,
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
totally.
But
yeah, no, it is true. I mean, I remember when I was younger too, spending like so much time getting ready, or not like getting in the water because I didn't want to get my hair like, you know, or I remember
That is sad.
No, it is really sad.
It's really sad.
No, it is really sad.
we've done it.
But I know. And now, like the me now is just like, I don't really care. Like I'm just gonna.
And life is so much more fun when you.
It is.
When you have that lighthearted attitude about it.
Yeah.
And it's a work in progress, but
Yeah. But I mean, like the center of it is sometimes it can come up from our environment that we grew up in, and like the reason that people are the way that they are. And I think that's what people always have to remember. And I try to be really good about this, is have empathy for how people say things, what they actually say, because it truly is just their environment, whether existing environment or past environment.
Yes. And you have empathy, but then you also don't have to accept certain things.
True. Yeah.
You can have empathy for someone, but you can put up your boundaries and say, okay, that's not okay to say that to me, you know, if it is harmful.
But Nikki always gets deep, and I'm like, that is not where I'm going.
Both things can be true. Both things can be true.
I literally love it. I love it so much.
I love it.
But it is true in the sense
It is true.
what people say is a reflection of themselves.
Yes, it is.
100%.
100%.
Yes.
And that's another like mantra I always go back to, that like as I've gotten older, it's easy to get offended, but like 99% of the time, if someone, and there are people that do things that are wrong, absolutely, but like most of the time it's not about you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's such a simple
Just don't take it personally.
concept.
Yeah.
Like, don't, so
Yep.
many things, so many internal, I think, strife and stress that we put upon ourselves. If we just realized they're just having a bad day, or they didn't snub you, they're in their own head, or their dog is sick, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not about you, but
Yeah.
sometimes we tend to just internalize it still.
Yeah.
I know I've been guilty of that in
Yeah.
the past. And
We're all just trying to be better.
we're all just trying to survive out here.
We're all just trying to survive.
It's true. What was that? We're all just lifing.
We're all just life.
We were in an Uber down in Texas, and we had the most amazing Uber driver. She was hilarious.
Amazing.
And we asked her how she was doing, and she was like, "I'm just lifing," you know. And then she like went off to like explain this how she was lifing, and anyway,
I like it.
Yeah,
She needs like a fun
She's
quote.
like, just embrace the hot mess. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I love it.
I'm here for you.
I
lady.
love it. Like, let's just be real. And it was amazing.
So did
guys
we
should have
went
her.
off on a couple tangents.
Yeah.
Did we get all of your tools that you mentioned? Because you mentioned meditation, yoga, journaling, eating healthy.
Yeah. The last one I would say, just it's cohesive, right? All of those things, but is connection, kind of going back to what we said. But if I have a tendency where if I'm like stressed and my immune system's down and I feel like I'm on the verge of getting sick or overwhelmed, I think it's because I'm kind of an independent person and I've been so long that I will just revert and I'll kind of hole up. And I think one tool that I've had to kind of force myself to do is call a girlfriend or call family members. And that connection really, I mean, it's everything.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes if it's not intuitive, like I have friends that are so good about that and they just, I don't know. For me, I've always gained energy kind of like holing up. And so you can't do that. You need to like stay connected to others. So
Yeah, you need to embrace. She reminds me of that as well. Is you need to be open to receiving, not
Yes.
just giving.
Yeah.
it's true.
It's super important.
But I always say that because I was so bad at it for so much of my life. And then I did realize like oh my gosh, this is what life is about, is connecting with other people and connecting to ourselves. And it's really hard to connect to other people if we aren't connected to ourselves.
It's so true.
And so, but at the same time, sometimes we do need a little bit of extra help from those people.
Yeah,
so.
perspective. And like once you do talk to someone and they'll give you that perspective, it's like you feel better. But yeah, I think if you're someone that's used to being really independent, it's hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So. As independent gals.
Yep.
Yes. who are givers. Like, it is really easy to like give to other people, but to receive for yourself is a really beautiful thing, to be able to let someone help you and let someone in.
Well, what advice would you give to the audience just to leave them? I know you had your tools, but just one piece of, maybe it's your personal mantra or something that you live by daily that would be helpful for our audience.
Oh gosh.
I just put you on the spot.
Great question.
I love that question. Yes. I'm like, how do I even begin to answer that? That's an amazing question. This is something that I always go back to, and I've heard other people say it before, but it's really how I live my life. And I feel like we all have most of us have creativity in us. And my husband always jokes, he's like, I'm not creative. I'm more the numbers minded person, but literally all of us are creatives. And I think, for those of us that are high achieving and we have all these dreams, a lot of times we get stunted, kind of in indecision, or we feel like this baby, this project, or this new company isn't ready. And literally, I've heard so many people talk about this, these entrepreneurs who have gone on to have these wildly successful companies, and across the board, what they say is you will literally never be 100% ready. So it's better to give birth to this idea.
Love it. I'm giving birth.
I know, that sounds a little creepy when I say but to give, just to put it out there in the world. And the worst thing that can happen is you can fail, but you're not really failing because you're still going to learn lessons.
Yes,
right.
So if it's something you feel you have to do and you keep thinking about it and you're staying up late at night, like, just go for it. Like,
I love that. That explained literally what I had to do.
Yeah.
To start this brand that I'm launching.
Yeah. Congratulations on everything.
Yeah.
And
she is going to kill it.
I'm so excited to see it just grow and take off and evolve. And so I know it's kind of in its infancy, but do you have you seen kind of that? Like, did you feel 100% ready launching everything?
No.
Or do you feel like you're in the process right now?
No, I actually it was really, so it's not fully launching until Q1 of 2024.
Okay.
But I have pretty much everything ready. And no, I was not ready to start at all. Yeah. I went through a mini depression the first week leaving my corporate job because it was so almost just like, I could do this stuff in my sleep, right? Like, I was leading a team and I grew that team from 0 to, I think it was around 20-ish when I left, and it was comfortable. And then that week after, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just do?
Yeah.
I had a panic attack and I'm like, okay. And then once I started to get more comfortable and I just dove in, I was like, wait, I can't stop thinking about this. Like, I have so many ideas. I'm doing this. And you're going 100 miles an hour. And then you realize, okay, at the end of the day, I could do this the rest of my life and be fine because I love this. And I love this mission and purpose behind it. And that's when I knew, okay, this is what I'm doing.
I love that.
And it doesn't matter if you're not ready.
Yeah. You'll
never be ready.
No, you'll never.
I'm still learning things. I made a couple mistakes the other day. And you just keep learning.
It's going to happen. Yeah. But you take the positive from that.
Yeah.
So
That's such a good takeaway. Thank you so much for that.
I love that. Yeah. I know.
That was amazing.
We needed to hear that.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on.
You are
seriously such a treat. And I want to have you on again because she's also really good on the manifestation and affirmation side. So
we didn't even
maybe we'll do a second episode on that. But thank you again for coming on today.
Beautiful soul. Like, you are beautiful physically, but also just inner. Like, I can just feel your goodness. So thank you.
You guys are so sweet. I feel the same way. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Building with Vitality.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more.
Love you guys.